Did you ever hear of Darth Eggus, the baker? I thought not. It's not a story the Jedi are likely to tell you. It's a Sith legend. He had such a knowledge of the dark side of cooking. He could even keep the food he loved from dying.
Is it possible to learn this power?
Not from a Jedi. On today's episode of Baking Broke, I will share with you some of his knowledge. You know, there are so many reasons that local, fresh-baked bread rocks. The smell, the taste, the texture of the loaf. The fact it supports your local economy. The opportunity it affords to go all barbaric and take however much you want. But one of my favorite things about the fresh-baked bread is that this stuff goes stale wonderfully well. Wait, now I'm getting excited about stale bread? Seriously, who wrote the script? Well, after a heartfelt talk with the director, I've come to the conclusion that stale bread does in fact rock. In actuality, stale breads can be what we really need for this recipe. The plastic bag bread that you get at the grocery store normally has preservatives in it, and while these help to keep it soft, it also keeps it from going stale, and instead turns it into a fuzzy blue loaf of doom. Or potential penicillin, I guess. Now, when bread, real bread, goes stale, it gets hard. The first day, it's wonderful. It's like paradise. You've got this nice soft loaf. The next day, a little bit tougher, but still great times. Into the next day, it's a little bit more al dente. You're definitely telling that there's a crust there. About day 4 and 5, this stuff's getting too hard to actually eat anymore, but there is a solution. Now, if for some reason or another, you have found yourself with an overabundance of great bread that's just gone stale and a little bit too hard, we've got the cure. Even if it's just a tiny amount, this recipe is still going to work for you because it's a whatever recipe. If you're one of those hardliners that likes proportions, that like exact amounts, just walk away now. Turn your back. Don't listen to another word. Run while you can. Whatever recipes are very much the dark side of cooking. This is going to rely on your passion, your power, and incidentally, whatever you might have on hand. Now, there are only really 4 ingredients you are absolutely going to need for this. And even with those, you can play a little loosey-goosey. First ingredient, of course, is going to be bread. Now, I know I've been stressing the importance of what type of bread you use, and making sure that it's stale. Fact of the matter is, even if all you have is the bread that comes in the plastic bag, you can make this recipe work. Second ingredient that you should probably definitely have is eggs. You can get by with as few as 1, or as many as 6. For a half loaf, I'll normally use about 4 eggs. Smaller amounts probably go down to 2, but even for a full loaf, I'd probably only use 5 eggs. Break them and beat them a little bit, and add whatever spices or seasonings you might have on hand. Some of my favorites to use are cinnamon, which many of us have on hand, ground ginger, another phenomenal one. Clove you can use, but use it very sparingly. Heck, you could even use packages of hot chocolate. Also, fresh nutmeg, if you know how to use it, another great addition. Ooh, I love this part, check it out. Ah, the simple things in life. Now, as we keep on going with the flavorings, you can definitely add some vanilla extract, or whatever you feel might work for your own personal recipe. Providing you're making sweet whatever bread pudding, you'll probably need some sort of sweetener. That can be sweeteners like honey or maple syrup, or more traditional sweeteners like white or brown sugar. Heck, you could even use a jar of jam or jelly from the fridge. Or peanut butter. Or both. So if you've got a half a loaf of bread you're working with, use about 1 cup of sugar or sweetener. Now don't go above 1 cup of honey, otherwise things are going to get a little bit messy. And even when using a full loaf, you probably won't need to go above 2 cups of whatever sweeteners you may have chosen. Now the third ingredient that you're probably definitely going to need for this is going to be a milk product. Best ones being heavy cream or whole milk, but you can still make skim milk work. Add anywhere from a couple of tablespoons to 1 cup. Now mix it all up. Now that's dark side cooking. Pour your mixture all over the bread. And in the spirit of whatever, I'd nearly forgotten to tell you about the fourth ingredient. You again need some butter. And again, use whatever you have on hand, but I'd recommend about 2 sticks for a half loaf. And I probably wouldn't use more than 3 sticks, even for a full loaf. And if you don't happen to have butter, I'd say you can probably get away with about 1/4 cup to 1 full cup of oil, depending on how much bread you have to coat. With the butter, make sure that you leave a little bit left over so that you have something to grease the baking pan with. And make sure to take it out of the wrapper. Now once it's out of the wrapper, melt it down so that it can be absorbed more easily into the mixture. Now blend everything together, but don't go overboard with it. You want there to be big chunks. The end result is going to have different textures and consistencies throughout. And if you overblend, you're going to end up with a uniform loaf, which is not our goal for this recipe. Now we are going to let that sit and soak for 1 hour. Yes, seriously, at least a full hour. We're pulling a Lazarus with your bread here. It's going to take some time. And this is why we wanted the stale bread. It's the perfect medium for soaking up all that flavor. And it'll regain a little bit of that soft chewiness and take on its own unique character. And as I'd said, you can use the plastic bag bread. You'll just need to reduce the soaking time from an hour down to about 15 minutes. And just fair warning, it's not going to be the same, but it'll still probably be pretty good. So go ahead, preheat your oven to around 350, maybe 375, somewhere in there, who knows. It's whatever. Use your leftover butter and grease your baking dish. Take the dish, fill it up with your whatever bread pudding mixture. And depending on what it's made of, what type of baking dish you're using, what region of the country you're in, and where Mars and Aries are in relation to your astrological chart, you'll bake that around 350 to 375, maybe, for somewhere between 20 and 50 minutes. Hey, I told you this recipe wasn't for the faint of heart. Whenever your force sensitivity tells you your whatever bread pudding is about ready to be removed, do take care. In case you can't tell by the beautifully boiling butter in the background, that dish is hot. So welcome it back to the world of the living and give it about 15 minutes to regain its composure. Then devour its soul. Now you don't just have to use sweet ingredients for this, you can make savory dishes. If you've got leftover vegetables like tomatoes that might be going bad, if you've got spaghetti sauce or some leftover meats that you can't think of what to do with, heck, chop up a hot dog, I guess. The hope is to be able to provide you with a recipe to help save your food from a pointless death. Take these dark powers and use them well. Thanks for watching. May all your whatever dishes turn out whatever.